Now I'd like to present the Richard M. Weaver Award for 2012. This week, during which we celebrated Memorial Day, it's a very good time for us to nominate someone for the Richard Weaver Award. I hope that all of you here today know the difference between Veterans Day, which is celebrated in November as a time to remember with great respect all persons who have served this country in the military, and Memorial Day, which is a day set aside to remember all who have died in the service of their country, so that all of us can enjoy the freedoms we usually take so casually for granted. I know that all of us are grateful this year for the great sacrifices made for us by recent Indian Hill graduates who are serving in many places in the world in foreign wars. Richard M. Weaver was also a soldier and an Indian Hill graduate. When Richard Weaver was just a year or two older than you are now, he had the difficult distinction of being the only Indian Hill graduate to die in a foreign war. He graduated in June 1967 from Indian Hill High School. And like many young men of that generation, he joined the Marines that summer. He died at Phu-Bai at the beginning of the Tet Offensive on May 20th, 1968, in the Vietnam War. The anniversary of his death was just 2 weeks ago. Several years ago, a group of his friends and classmates came to us and asked if we would help memorialize their friend. Because Richard Weaver had no surviving family, they asked us to remember him and to be his family. They raised money for a permanent memorial, which is near to the entrance of our school. Some of them returned to school each year to honor Richard's memory. Richard Weaver's friends brought us his dog tags, which were found and purchased by a war veteran who had returned to the site of his war service. He was able to purchase many dog tags being sold in small Vietnamese villages. He knew their families would want the tags to be returned home. Because we are Richard Weaver's family, those dog tags were returned to us, and they're in a display case in the lobby of our auditorium. These men also wanted to add a yearly memorial to name a student as the recipient of the Richard Weaver Award, so that their friend would always be remembered at Indian Hill High School. What are the criteria for this award? Richard Weaver's friends spoke of his desire to challenge himself, his courage, his commitment to others above himself, and mostly his friendship and his outreach to others. In that spirit, then, I'm very pleased to tell you about our nominee. A nominee must embrace challenge, whether it be the challenge of a robust academic load, the challenge of being a multi-sport athlete, the challenge of making community service a priority, or the challenge of being compelled to do what is right, not what is easy. This nominee continually embraces challenge. This year's student is driven by a higher calling. Our society preaches individualism and personal success, and it is sometimes counter to our culture to think about others before oneself. But our nominee is deliberate and consistent in the execution of servant leadership. Strong leaders are characterized not by their personal successes, but by the successes of those surrounding them. This student exemplifies the ideal of being a team player, willing to sacrifice personal gain for the advancement of a team or group. One of this student's teachers remarked, "This student is very charitable. He gives of himself no matter what. When someone asks for his help, he never says, 'I'm too busy.' He shares his gifts and talents by letting other people on his team shine. He has made a real difference in the lives of everyone he has ever helped." Another teacher said, "So many words could be used to describe this student. He's generous, patient, kind, unwavering, gracious, and authentic." The most important characteristic of a Richard Weaver Award nominee is one of friendship. and outreach to others. Our nominee has served as a big brother and a role model to underclassmen this year. Faculty members describe him as humble, selfless, and a friend to all. He's someone who donates countless hours of his time and energy on behalf of others, and he's always willing to lend his talent and expertise. He understands how to balance academics, athletics, work, and the arts. Our nominee has a true passion for sharing with others, specifically sharing the story of our great school. He's always eager to talk with students and families when we tour Indian Hill. He's passionate about the tremendous opportunities we are all afforded here. Friendship is sharing what you have with those you most care about. Our nominee is deeply motivated to share all that is Indian Hill High School with all of you, and even with others beyond our walls. If you have a deep love for Indian Hill High School, you certainly know this young man. His creativity, optimism, and tireless commitment to spreading the good word about Indian Hill High School, even through electronic media, are legendary. Many of you count this young man as a friend, and I am confident that Richard Weaver would count him as a friend as well. Please join me in celebrating this year's recipient of the Richard M. Weaver Award, Jacob Logeman. And now here's Dr. Shelton with some closing remarks.